Alright, so follow me on this. So many of you watching may be Star Wars fans. And so if you recall, George Lucas created and released those in 1977, 1980, and 1983 respectively. And they were such a massive hit with people that the fans wanted more. They wanted more information, they wanted more stories, more details about the universe. And so people wrote tons of books and utilized different media to go into details, tell different stories, and fill in some of the background information. However, not all of these stories that were written are considered canon. Canon refers to a set of texts considered to be authoritative. Some guy may write a story about Han Solo, and in the end, Han Solo ends up dying in his story. But if George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, doesn't say it's canon, then Han will absolutely be showing up in future stories. It might be an interesting side thing to read about, but it's not considered part of Star Wars canon. Not considered part of the true actual story that's being told. Well, you may or may not be surprised to learn that the Bible also has different materials, letters, gospels, writings. And these are materials that were written around the same time as other books in the Bible, but they aren't part of the Bible that we're all familiar with. And these are called the Apocrypha, other books of the Bible that are not considered to be canon. So what's the deal with these other books? Why weren't they allowed to be part of the Bible? Is it wrong to read them? Is there anything written in there that we should know? And what does the Bible have to say? Let's take a look.
Attention, bargain shoppers.
So the Apocrypha. The term Apocrypha means stored away, or from the Greek word meaning hidden. And despite its seemingly secretive nature, it's not wrong to read them. It's not like these books were ever forbidden. They were and still are read by a lot of Christians. When Martin Luther translated the Bible into German in 1534, he actually included the Apocrypha as part of that. But over the years, their use has been disputed and sort of phased out. You see, each book of the Bible that we know was selected based on a set of criteria. Apostolic origin, whether it's recognized by the church, and whether it lines up with apostolic content. Apostolic origin is basically the idea that Christ appointed and gave authority to his apostles. He handpicked them to be his spokesperson. These were people that lived with him, that ate with him, that ministered with him. And Jesus said, these are the people you need to learn from. So in order for a book of the Bible to be considered canon, they would need to be able to prove that it was written by an apostle, or it was produced under the supervision of an apostle, basically given his stamp of approval. You see, oftentimes people of the day would write their own version of events, and they would attribute the writings to one of Jesus' apostles to kind of give it more authority. This is called pseudepigrapha, which means falsely attributed to. Another one of the criteria that books needed to meet in order to be considered canon is that they needed to be recognized by the early church. We're the earliest churches in places like Ephesus, Jerusalem, Antioch, Rome, Carthage. Did these guys accept these books and letters as authoritative? And lastly, apostolic content was looked at. This asked, does the book or letter being considered line up with the doctrines and the teachings of Jesus? Teachings that the apostles taught orally while they were still alive. So if the authorship was in question, if what is written didn't line up with what was being taught at the time, and if it couldn't be authenticated, it was out, not canon. The Gospel of Peter, for example, is considered a pseudepigraphal work. It reports to be written by Peter, but in fact it is a false view of Christ. It supports Docetism, which is a view that Christ was a separate entity from the Jesus body. Gospel of Peter says that on the cross, Jesus cried out, my power, why have you forsaken me? When in fact in Mark 15:34 we're told, and at 3 p.m, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me? Docetism was unequivocally rejected by the First Council of Nicaea, by both the Protestants and the Catholics. The Gospel of Peter also contradicts some of the teachings and the stories in the other Gospels. So this Gospel, not really written by Peter, was probably written around the same time as the other Gospels by some guy familiar with the events that took place, but got a lot of the details wrong. So the books that comprise the Apocrypha, these could be historically valuable even though they do contain some historical errors. They are culturally insightful in regards to the lives of the early Israelites, and they may also be devotionally helpful in places. However, the Apocrypha is not considered to be the Word of God, and thus not to be read as such. It is not to be treated as holy, trusted for guiding us in faith and in life. But it's interesting to think about. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Also, I'll leave the verses used today in the description. If you found that helpful, please feel free to like and subscribe. It does help out the channel. My name is Adam. This is Bargain Bin Theology, and remember, you get what you pay for.